ocean met the sky in a seamless embrace. It was the kind of place where time slowed down, where fishermen cast their nets at dawn, and children chased waves that curled gently onto the shore. For Amelia, it was home, a home she had once longed to escape, but one she now cherished deeply. Amelia worked at a little bookshop by the pier, its shelves filled with stories carried from all over the world. She loved the quiet comfort of old pages and the soothing rhythm of the sea outside her window. Life was simple, steady, until the day she met Daniel. Daniel was a traveler, an architect from the city who had come to Seabrook searching for inspiration. He wandered into the shop on a rainy afternoon, his jacket soaked, his hair dripping with seawater. Amelia handed him a towel without a word, and when he smiled in gratitude, something in her heart stirred. At first, their conversations were small, about books, about the stormy weather, about the peculiar charm of the town. But as days turned into weeks, Daniel returned again and again. Sometimes, he bought novels he confessed he would never read, just to see her. Other times, he stayed for hours, sketching buildings on scraps of paper while Amelia quietly arranged shelves. One evening, when the sun was melting into the horizon, he asked, "Do you ever feel like the ocean knows all our secrets?" She laughed softly. Maybe. Or maybe it just keeps reminding us how small we are compared to something so endless. That night, they walked along the shore, their footprints side by side, fading with the tide. Daniel told her about his dreams of designing a lighthouse, a place that could guide lost souls home. Amelia told him about her fear of leaving Seabrook again, of losing the only place where she truly belonged. As summer deepened, so did their closeness. The town whispered about them. The bookshop girl and the stranger with a sketchbook. For Amelia, it felt like living inside a story she once shelved on her shop's wooden racks. But love stories, she knew, were never without storms. One evening, Daniel confessed that his time in Seabrook was running out. His firm in the city was waiting for him, the lighthouse project was just a dream, not a commission. "I don't want to leave," he said, his voice breaking like waves against rocks. "But I don't know how to stay." Amelia's heart ached. She wanted to ask him to stay, to abandon everything else and remain in the quiet rhythm of Seabrook. But she also knew love wasn't about cages, it was about wings. The night before he left, Daniel slipped a small sketch into her hand. It was at the bookshop, drawn with care, and on the margin he had written, "Some places change you forever. Some people, too." When he finally drove away, the ocean seemed louder than ever, as if it was mourning with her. Days turned to months. Amelia filled her hours with books and customers, but a quiet emptiness lingered. She walked the shoreline each evening, wondering if the sea carried her unspoken words to him. Then, one golden morning nearly a year later, a new lighthouse rose on the cliffside of Seabrook. The town buzzed with surprise. It was beautiful, tall, a beacon of light against the vast sky. At the opening ceremony, Amelia stood among the crowd, her heart trembling. And there he was. Daniel, standing by the lighthouse, his eyes searching until they found hers. He smiled, the same smile that had once warmed a rain-soaked day. "I built it for you," he whispered when she finally reached him. "Because no matter where I was, you were always my light." Amelia felt tears blur her vision as she realized that sometimes, love wasn't about choosing between staying and leaving. Sometimes, love was about finding a way to belong together. And so, by the ocean's eternal whispers, their story truly began. Whispers beneath the old bridge. The small town of Riverton had always been a quiet place, the kind where everyone knew each other's names, where the seasons moved slowly, and where love stories often began in the simplest of ways. For Emily Carter, Riverton was both a comfort and a cage. She had lived there all her life, working as a librarian in the town's century-old library. Books were her escape, but sometimes she wondered if her own story would ever begin. Then came Daniel Hayes. Daniel was a traveler, a photographer whose work had taken him across oceans and mountains. He wasn't the type to settle anywhere for too long. But when his grandmother fell ill in Riverton, he returned to the town he had left behind years ago. His plan was to stay only until she recovered. Fate, however, had different intentions. The first time Emily saw him, he was standing in the library, a camera hanging from his neck, flipping through an old book of local history. His presence seemed out of place, like a painting that didn't belong in a quiet gallery. She noticed the way his eyes lingered on photographs of the old wooden bridge that spanned Riverton's river. "That bridge," she said softly, surprising herself by speaking first, "is where most of this town's love stories begin." He looked up, his eyes a warm shade of brown that reminded her of autumn leaves. "Is that so?" he asked with a small smile. She nodded. "It's where couples meet, where people propose, where promises are made. They say if you whisper your heart's wish beneath it, the river carries it into the future." Daniel chuckled, but not unkindly. "Do you believe that?" Emily hesitated, then smiled. "I want to." Over the weeks that followed, their paths crossed more often, at the farmer's market, the coffee shop, and always, somehow, back at the library. Daniel was fascinated by stories, not just in books, but in people. Emily found herself telling him about her life in Riverton, about the little dreams she kept tucked away, about the way she longed to see the world beyond the town's borders. In turn, he shared tales of his travels, the markets in Marrakesh, the snow-capped peaks of the Alps, the crowded streets of Tokyo. Yet, what struck Emily most wasn't the places he spoke of, but the way he listened to her, as though her quiet life was just as extraordinary as his adventures. One golden evening, he asked her to walk with him to the old bridge. The river reflected the fading light, and the world felt suspended between day and night. "You know," Daniel said, leaning against the railing, "I used to think love was something fleeting. Something you stumble into in one city, and then leave behind in another. But now," he paused, searching for the right words. "Now I'm not so sure." Emily's heart beat faster. The air seemed to thrum with something unsaid. She whispered, almost shyly, "Maybe you should make a wish." He looked at her, his expression softening. "Only if you do too." So, standing side by side, they bent down and whispered their wishes into the cool evening air, letting the river carry them away. Days turned into weeks, and what was once a chance connection grew into something neither of them could ignore. But reality loomed. Daniel's grandmother grew stronger, and his time in Riverton was running out. One night, Emily asked the question she had been dreading. "When you leave, will you come back?" He didn't answer right away. His silence felt heavier than words. Finally, he reached for her hand, holding it tightly. "I don't know if I can stay," he admitted. "But I know I don't want to lose you." Tears stung her eyes, but she nodded. "Then don't." On his last night in town, they returned to the bridge. The river glistened under the moonlight. Daniel pulled her close and kissed her, gently but with a promise in the way he lingered. "I don't know where my path will take me," he whispered against her hair. "But wherever it is, I'll carry you with me. And one day, I'll find my way back." Emily smiled through her tears. "I'll be here. Always." Months passed. Letters came from distant cities, photographs with scribbled notes on the back, "Thinking of you. This place reminds me of our bridge. Wish you were here." And then, one spring morning, as cherry blossoms bloomed along the riverbanks of Riverton, Emily stood on the bridge again, her heart quietly aching. She whispered a wish to the river, just as she always did. When she looked up, Daniel was there, camera still hanging from his neck, smile wide and eyes shining. "I kept my promise," he said. And beneath the bridge where so many stories began, Emily's story finally found its forever.